Hey guys, this is P.M.R.Bonez88's, and today for my next sci-fi movie review that I'll be talking about today is Back to the Future Part 2. You know, I always like to talk about like the first movie before I talk about the sequel, but the reason why I'm talking about Back to the Future Part 2 is because it's this year of 2015. It's better late than never. So it brought back the original cast of Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Thomas F. Wilson, and Leah Thompson, and along with the director Robert Zemeckis, who returned from the first film. So everyone that were from the first film have now returned to the second film. Unfortunately, Crispin Glover did not return to play as George McFly. So they only used just some different footages from the first film, from the previous first one, and they had to use a picture of him where George McFly died in the alternate of 1985. Plus, they had to find a body double for Crispin Glover's character when they go back in, where Marty and Doc go back in the year 1955. So you probably won't be able to see, you won't be seeing him like too close because the character is different. The actor is different. Sorry. So they had to use a different actor for him instead. So the movie is actually about where they leave off, where Doc finds Marty and Jennifer, and they take them back to the future in the year 2015. But there's a little difference between the 2015 and Back to the Future Part 2 and our 2015. Let's see what the difference are, shall we? Flying cars, that's in the movies. But do we have flying cars here in this 2015? Nope. What else? Automatic microwave, like you get by a Pizza Hut, get like a mini little pizza, and then you put it in the microwave, and then you just like talk and tell it how long to bake it for. Just automatically, quick seconds, just like that, pizza's ready. But the microwave in our 2015 doesn't do that. And also, there was a Jaws 19 in their 2015, but in our 2015, there is no Jaws 19. But the problem is, what happened to Jaws 5 through 18? But the film started in 1989, so none of us didn't know what 2015 was going to be like, even in the far distant future. And lastly, the hoverboard. Apparently, we don't have hoverboards in this time of year. Not yet, probably maybe the other far side of future, but it'll probably make it soon. Who knows, right? So anyways, Marty goes into the 80s cafe, and that's where he meets up with the old man Biff. Biff is grandson, which is named Griffin. He's probably much more screwed to the head than Biff was. He's even more ruthful, meaner, and very crazy and sick to the head. So there's a little similarity from the first film, where Marty gets away from Biff and the gang in the whole entire town and chases after them. In part 2, it's the exact same thing, but the only difference is Griff's gang that's going after Marty. So by the time that Marty gets away from Griff's gang, and all of a sudden they got arrested from breaking and entering to the time clock, Marty goes into the antique store and finds a great sports almanac, so that way if he ever goes back in time, he can just make win best, so it would work. So when Doc threw away the almanac book, and somehow Biff snatched the book and followed them. But by the time Doc and Marty got out of the DeLorean and rescued Jennifer, somehow Biff took the DeLorean and went back in time to the past. And when he came back from the past, he was really dying or sick. And so by the time they rescued Jennifer and went back to their own time, somehow their 1985 was completely different. Everything was alternated. So that's why Biff took the almanac book, and he ran into his younger self, and when his younger self got the almanac book, everything started to change. Biff married to Marty's mother, George McFly died, and the Doc, he is now in a psychiatric hospital. So now they had to go back, it's in the past, on the day where old Biff met his younger self, So Marty went back to the house, well, back to Biff's new casino house. He talks to him about how he got the almanac book, like how, where, and when. And Biff explained everything, so that was the information he wanted to give. So Marty just ran up to the top building and just like tried to get away from Biff. And by the time he told him to jump, Marty did jump. But surprisingly, guess who was there to rescue him? So now they had to go back to the year 1955, and that was also the year that Marty went back in time to meet his parents before they got married, before they got together and made love. So Marty and Doc were figuring out where did Biff live, and they had to like avoid to men up their other selves. Doc did run into his other self, actually his younger self. But this was during like in the first film, so everything what we see, it was in the first footage or somehow used in the second film, but to make it as the first footage ever. This second part 2 is actually amazing how they did it, and it's even like seeing where the future and even with the grossing, like it really did hit the box office, like almost like over 300 million. It really did hit the box office, and even with the music that they brought it back to, and see with all the visual effects that's happening and the computer graphics to make it look 3D dimensional, it was very good, really amazing. By closer to the end of this film, where Marty finally gets the almanac from younger Biff, and they finally burn it, and everything was like back to the way it was, back to like to their own 1985. But somehow Doc got struck by lightning, and so Marty was like totally stuck into the past, so there's no way how he's going to get back home. But somehow, surprisingly, a strange person just gives him like a letter from him. It was from the Doc, and it was from the year 1885. Somehow he went back in the Old West. So Marty has to find the other Doc from 1955, and that's where I end there, where Marty finally meets up with Doc, and Doc just fainted. And we see a quick glimpse of Back to the Future Part 3, where Marty goes back into the West and saves Doc. But that's another movie that I'll be reviewing soon, somehow in the distant future. So just to rate Back to the Future Part 2, I would have to give it a I'll give it a 95 out of 100. For a sequel like this, Back to the Future Part 2 is my favorite because it shows like every different timeline to see what the future would be like, and what happens if you change the past. You'll have like an alternate present. You'll probably have like an alternate 2015. Like if I even try to go back in the past and change one thing, it'll be an alternate 2015. But for Back to the Future Part 2, it has a great story. The story plot was good, and the characters and the actors like coming back, it was like great, even though that some actors and actresses did not return. And like I said, Crispin Glover did not return. They just used different footages from the first film. And same with Jennifer. I forgot to mention that there was different actress, I forgot her name, but she was in other films that I've seen her before. But she was also good, but also the other Jennifer from the first film, she was even beautiful and pretty, but it's my opinion. It's really actually my opinion, but the first one was good, but the second film was also good. It was also my favorite too. And I do own this movie on Blu-ray and DVD. And this is P.M.R.Bonez88 signing off. The saying is, peace!